So, what's up, everybody? It's your girl Erica from the Classy Climb blog, coming to you today talking about middle class crunch and what to do in 2018. So many times on this channel, I am on the very optimistic side. Things are going to be great. You know, all you need is a little bit more income and more investments. These things are still true. Not that these things aren't true. It's just we have to be able for everybody to be on the same page, and not everybody is on the same page. Some people are believing the myth that nothing's wrong. The market could go on like this, and it just isn't. So let's try to squeeze on this page. Hopefully everyone can see me. This first article is about happy days no more, middle class squeeze. Now it's talking about, wages being stagnant, right? Now, here's my thing. At the end of the day, when people say their wages have stagnated, 9 times out of 10, that means they aren't getting promoted at their job or they haven't asked for a raise. It's very hard for people to sit here and look me dead in the face and say, oh, I've been stuck at the same pay for many, many years. Unless you're like a cable install guy or a Spectrum, or you work at a phone center where they're paying $11 an hour. That's very common at these phone centers. There's just, you have to keep pressing for another job. Raises don't come like that. Like, you get your raises when you switch jobs, and people hate hearing that, but that's just the truth. So again, in this article, some of these things, I kind of go, these people have been here for years, right? This woman has a 13-year-old Durango with 200,000 miles, and it's overheating, right? So again, she's saying her budget's tight, but how did it get there, right? So let's go down. Let's see if it's some more. But it's talking about middle class, and this person's an IT engineer at a hospital. Once the bills are paid and we go grocery shopping, we don't have enough to pay other bills. What's happening here? There's other debt these people aren't talking about. And this one guy says couples' retirement savings are meager. The college fund is non-existent. Let's be really honest. The Johnsons have a blended family with 3 children under 18. You could have put $20 away into a 529, savings account at your bank many years ago. $20 a week, and it still would have been more than what these people are saying they have. The numbers just don't match up, right? People all of a sudden will have new cars every 2 years, but have no savings and no investments. Okay. So let's, sometimes you got to go, hey, what's the real deal here? So, okay, you're going down here, and it's talking about a poll about, Americans, 40% of Americans in the middle class felt less financially secure. Now, here's my problem with the definition of middle class they're using. Many of these people are, the college educated or something like that. Now, down here, it said in the mid-70s, majority of Americans were the middle, 52%. In today's dollars would be 35,000 to 100,000. I don't care what you say. If you make 35,000 a year, I don't care if you live in the middle of Oklahoma. You are not middle class. You are a working class person. Anything under 65,000 a year is working class. Even at 65,000, if you're in New York with 65,000, you're broke. You're a poverty. So this definition they have is really whack, right? 35,000, 100,000. No, it's really closer to $65,000 a year. That would be the bare minimum. Okay, because the median income in America is 51,000, as this article is stating. And yes, they make 90,000 a year, which is better than most people, but the median in Virginia is 66. Now, here's another part they're not saying. Even if they make 90,000 a year, their taxes are going to be anywhere from like 18 grand to $25,000 coming off the top of that. So really, they got closer to 70 something. But people keep looking for those tax refunds, and the tax refunds are going to make everything better, and that does true. I know it's not showing on this article, but many people, when I talk to them, I'm like, how much is your cable package? People are telling me $300, $400, $500. They go, well, everybody in the house is got internet, it's Wi-Fi over the house, this and that. And I'm like, that's just crazy. This is crazy. So when they ask people what could be better, what would be the best amount of money? Many people say $75,000. Why are they saying $75,000? Because for most people, that would double their current income. This one couple even says $150,000 a year. If we had an extra $60,000 a year, we would have some breathing room. I'd like to have some extra things, not look at them and drool. See, already her mindset is focused on stuff, not investments. Stuff, not investments. So again, This one's talking about someone who had a butcher for a father. Mom would stay at home until the family split. And then she worked a bunch of blue collar jobs. Then Robin went in the Army Reserves after high school and got her degree in accounting. Okay. So it's like, it's just, there's several stories here that are familiar to most people if you read this article. It's very interesting that people are like, oh, I need more money for stuff. There's no talking here for investment. And that's the sad part. A lot of these people need to read Mr. Money Mustache and figure out that investing is the most important part. Even here, when she's talking about, I only spend $90 a month for this satellite, 3 flat screen TVs, and Wi-Fi connections they need for him to work from home. 1 laptop, 3 iPads. Each girl has a computer in the room. The bill for 4 cell phones runs about $300 a month. Do you hear that? Let's hear that again. 3 flat screen TVs. Even though people are like, Erica's flat screen TV is only $150. Wi-Fi connections. 1 laptop, 3 iPads. Each girl has a computer in her room. Right? So again, there's money being tossed around, but for what? So again, this is an article right here from Washington Post. Let's go into the next one. This one's the Daily Beach. In the future, all renters will all be renters. Right now, why do I dislike that title? I think that's cheap, if I could say so myself. If it'll come in, it's finally coming in. But anyway, it's saying how America's wealth is only going in a few people's hands. A few people are concentrating on it. Now, let's be really honest. There's a lot of people who don't want to own a house. I had an aunt who rented this house. She's not an aunt. She's more like a distant cousin. But just for sake of her older age, will be nice to call her aunt. She lived in a house for over 20 plus years. The man who owned it came to her and said, listen, I'm getting elderly. I'm going to give all this stuff to my son, and he probably will not be as nice as a landlord as I have been. Would you like to buy this house for $35,000 or something near $40,000? She said, this area has been cheap. This house was cheaper than when I first moved into it. I'm not buying that. I don't have $40,000 from the bank I can give you. And guess what? 6 months later, he dies. His son takes over his properties and puts her out, cleans it up, and raises the rent. All just completely shocked that she didn't call some of us and ask us what to do or help with her down payment. The family had plenty. Our family have other rentals. She didn't. It's just her choice she made. And the problem is when people isolate themselves and don't make smart choices or investments, this happens. Now she's in her 60s. She's closer to 70, actually, but she's actually in a property way out in the middle of the country, what we would call the rural area parts of town, because that's where she can afford. See, you have to make a plan here. And so a lot of these times, these articles are talking about basically small amounts of people will be owning multiple rental properties and everybody else will be renters. Now, this could be good or this could be bad. I don't see it as a terrible thing, but at the end of the day, I would prefer more people have homes, because I'm seeing people who are being pushed out. When I was in the apartment management, I saw people lose their apartments who had tons of great stuff, had a good job, just had a financial slip up. Now, let's be honest, if they were in a house, they would be in a house for probably 3, 4, 5 months, trying to fix paying a mortgage before they were put out. Now, is that good? No, I don't think anybody should be in their house missing their mortgage payments. But again, the difference of 5 months somewhere stabilizing versus being in an apartment in 21 days, you didn't pay your rent, you're out, is a big deal. And a lot of these people who are elderly, like I've seen a lot of elderly people in the Carolinas, all they got left is their house and their nice paid off Lincoln Cadillac, their Lincoln and their Cadillac, and they live well. They have plenty of food stacked up in their house. They got their medicine. They're good to go. And people kind of laugh about that, but different life than a 70-year-old who's having to work at Lowe's or be a greeter at Walmart or work somewhere they don't want to work because they're still paying for apartment rent. Just a different life. Just saying. All right. Another couple articles we have. Let's see here. It's talking about how people are struggling to make ends meet even in 2-family homes. Sorry, the computer is going pretty slow today. It'll be all right, though. Essentially, PBS does a lot of these specials. Basically, in 2-family homes, both parents are working. Hey, now listen, I'm going to say this, and this. It's about budgeting. If 2 people are in there, and together y'all can't make it work, that means there's a budget problem. Someone's spending money they shouldn't. Now, this one is the most popular article I've seen in a long time. It's the secret shame of middle-class Americans. If you don't read any other article that I recommend from this channel, read this one. This one is talking about how nearly half of Americans have trouble finding $400 to pay for an emergency. And I am one of them. That's what the guy says in the article. Okay, so here's the thing. You go down and the guy has, let's see here. Let's go here. Basically, he's talking about how 49% of part-time workers would prefer to work more hours at their current wage. 29% of Americans expect higher income. 43% who have owned their home for at least a year believe its value has increased. Now, I'm here in Austin, Texas. I have several friends who own homes, and they've increased 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. But they don't have a game plan to do anything with it because they're not like me, or they're not an investor. I'm not going to sit there with equity in a home that I take that 60 grand and go get a duplex or fourplex in Denton or Dallas and have rental income coming in. So it's just one of those things. But $400 to me is so scary because, $100 a week should go somewhere. If it doesn't go in a savings account, if it doesn't go in a certificate, a piece of stock. Right now, I know everybody isn't super hot on stocks. Now, the reason I always say, hey, purchase some stocks, you can turn around and sell them. People are always worried about a market crash, but I'm not talking about going out and buying a bunch of everything. I'm talking about a few select stocks that you have and that are solid and good. The price isn't going to jump up and down, not a penny stock or something ridiculous, that you could turn around and sell in a lump sum if you need it in an emergency. And that's the difference between people being homeless and these homeless tents in California and people who are still in their house, and sometimes they have a kerfuffle, but they can get access to the money. So literally, if you read this article, it isn't funny, but it's funny to me because I see people who are making higher incomes who could easily shave off a couple of dollars here and there, put their money in smarter places, essentially. So yeah, it basically said only 38% of Americans could be able to cover $1,000 emergency room visit or a $500 car repair with the money they saved. Now, I've had emergency surgery here in Austin, Texas, literally climbing into the emergency room, get my appendix taken out, and then again for another surgery that went from 1 hour to 4 hours. And trust me, they are now taking payment plans at the door, at the hospital. Like, they're like, hey, do you have money before you go into the surgery? I mean, it was literally the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I understand it because they probably are saying 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to get a little bit of money from these people. They're not even going to get any money from these people. And people think that can't happen, Erica. Oh, my friend makes $8,000 or, $10,000 a month. Yeah, that's possibly works with your friend, but it's not everyone. And so there's a reason I'm doing this video, is because I'm putting together a blog article because I for myself personally, I go to a really great church. I live in a middle class area, and I can tell the difference. I can definitely tell the difference at the Barnes and Nobles and the Target and the different places and the people and how they're dressed versus other areas. But I'm not silly enough to go, everybody I know is a business owner. Everybody I know is in the military. Everybody I know does this. Because that's a very myopic view, because most people only know about 10, 12 people once they start having kids, getting busy with life, go to work. And I'm talking about know them intimately. So a lot of times when people say, well, everybody I know is an engineer, well, that's all the people you know. Or everyone I know is a teacher. It's tribalism. You're in a small group of people that you know. And so you put them down as that's who you know. And that's the funny thing. When I talk to people, I'm trying to get them to break out their myopic view and think that nothing will ever go wrong. Nothing can ever go wrong, Erica. What are you talking about? I make good money. I just want to be comfortable. Anytime we talk about getting people to invest or getting people to grow a business on the side, they really get frustrated with me on this channel about that. And so I just want to share you these different articles. And it's talking about just how the middle class is struggling. How the middle class is even struggling on 6 figures. 6% of people who make 6 figures have no dollars saved up, none. So sorry the computer's so slow today, but I just had to share this video because I think that a lot of times people will think, oh, Erica, that's crazy. If I made $70,000 a year, my life would be completely different. That is not necessarily true. So these people are bringing in 125,000 a year, and they're even talking about they're struggling to make Chevy. Now, let's make it very clear. They live in Chevy Chase, Maryland. If you guys know anything about Maryland or other areas past Virginia, very, very expensive. Point blank period, very expensive. So the little graph, share of Americans living in the middle household has fallen. Now, here's my thing. If you look at the upper went up. Now, what does that mean? That means a percentage of Americans moved up, right? 3% moved up, and some did go down to the lower end. So whenever people use these graphs, I kind of laugh because you're going to have people that retire. You're going to have people to get out. It's various different ways to look at those numbers. But at the end of the day, you will see more people as this recession gets deeper in dire straits. Again, the top 5 things that were Googled the past 3 months have been how to sell a kidney, how to sell stocks, how to access your 401k, different random things that should never be Googled, right? Walmart credit card was up in the Google search. A lot of things are up in the Google search that, to me, it just shows you where some people are in a pinch. They're in an economic pinch. So this is an article. I like this blog. It's Financial Samurai. And it's talking about how to make 6 figures at any income or any age. Now, again, effort, desire, knowledge, optimism are important. But I also want you guys, what's your skill level? Because a lot of times, the older you get, the closer you get, there's a chance where there'll be ageism involved and people will just not hire you because, well, that person's in their 40s. They don't fit with the company or they don't fit with the group of people. And that happens to people quite often. So here's some of the ones he named for 6-figure income jobs. Internet, Airbnb, IT consulting, oil mining, commodities, computer, investment banking, healthcare, of course, police officers and firefighters. Now, this is the one I want to talk about. Police officers and firefighters, depending on the town you're in. If you're in a town where it's a small or light police force, but you get a lot of overtime, it's very possible to make 100,000 a year. Now, if you're a police in a major city, in a metro like Houston, or you're in Los Angeles, or you're in New York, or you're in these places, you're going to make 100K a year. It just depends on how you slice it. Do you want to live in those high income areas with the added stress of it being a city and major crime in a city? So it has a lot of good ones on here that I think are important that you guys can check out. But essentially, there has to be a growth moment here, right? What do we do in this? Again, you got to get back to getting that extra $25 to $100 a week put away. Now, people are like, Erica, $100 a week? Yes, invest it. At minimum, 125. Honestly, you should be putting 500 away. You should be putting 500 a month away. And people think that's a crazy number, but that's just really the truth of the matter. That's really the truth of the matter. And how do you get that? You got to get more income. You got to get the income up. That helps so much. So again, if you look at all these different things he's talking about, how he made, how this one blogger made $300,000 this year, right? It was like corporate consulting. It was like Google AdSense. Look at how many things he had in the fire to make that work. So you have to sit down and really the truth is starting your own business or working 2 jobs. And everybody doesn't like that answer, but you got to get the income up and you got to be able to say, this is our problem. This is what we're tackling. A lot of people's problems are the cars. Cars are eating people alive. I've drove in many neighborhoods where it's just everywhere. And people get so upset about people kind of getting on them about a car because they go, well, Erica, I drive, I make this much money, I deserve it. And it's like, by the time you pay a $300 a month car payment and $200 a month in insurance and maybe another $200 in gas, you're shelling out $700 to $1,000 in a vehicle. And people really ignore that. They really ignore what that means and how much that costs. And so I always want to get you guys to look at these things. And yes, this channel will remain very positive, but you got to think of a way to grow your income. You got to think of a way to what do you do in this recession? What happens to you? What happens to your family? What's something, how do you want it to look, right? How do you want it to look? Just be honest with yourself. Is there a particular way you want your future to look? And if there's a particular way you want your future to look, you have to write it down. And you have to make goals that are possible to reach. So that's a big part of it. you guys have any questions, throw them in there. I'll look over some of the comments and see if they fit today's conversation. Not, I won't answer them. So, hey, Jojo. Danielle, it just depends on what works best for you. I mean, it really depends on what works best for you. I mean, there's a lot of conversation we could ask in there, but at the end of the day, owning a duplex, even a fourplex, all those are possible. Are there fourplexes in your area that are in your investment range? You know, could you do FHA on them? There's several ways you can look at that. You're already doing part of it. You're creating a business for yourself. You're starting a mobile practice. Okay, just keep getting the income up. And honestly, what people don't realize is it might take 90 days, but for a lot of you, it may take a year. So a year of bringing an extra $500 to $2,000 just might take that. It just might take that. So anyway, this was just a light video for tonight. You guys have a great night. This is going to be a part of the blog articles where I have a few comments and I have some things I pointed to. You guys, is Erica, Classy Climb Blog. Later.